and welcome back to the series of film clips around Agile excellence by Care&Growth. So we've come a few steps into the process here, and I'm sure that by now you know that we have the Agile Manifesto as a basis. We then add on the concept of modern Agile, that is sort of lifting the Agile Manifesto to really show the gist and to make it broader applicable than software. And that I then so happily add on Care&Growth to help out with those challenges that I've found working in different Agile organizations. Together, modern Agile and Care&Growth, that's really a 5-star thing. Right, so working with this now, we have this version of an Agile Manifesto that I call Agile Excellence by Care&Growth. And the 5 challenges there. And we have today come to the one that I call wishful thinking delegation. That challenge, how to turn that into true empowerment. And as I'm sure you're aware of, not only in Agile do we want to delegate, but we do work a lot with delegation, more or less consciously in Agile, since we want to have these self-organizing, strong, autonomous teams that are so central to the Agile concept. So the challenge I find with delegation is that yes, we want to do it, but no, we don't really know why or how. So that's what I'd like to explore together with you today, to discuss a little bit around why we delegate, and then how show a process for true empowerment, a 5-step process that we have in Care&Growth. So why should one delegate? It's easy to think that you want to delegate because you want to get rid of some of your tasks. That is not the way to build the strong self-organizing teams. You want to delegate to empower the team. You want to use the delegation as a way to help the team and individuals to grow. So that would be the first thing to remember, why we delegate. Looking at the Agile principles, let's see how we connect this thing then. Definitely the old favorite of ours here, number 5, build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment to support they need, trust them to get the job done. And also the number 11, which we've also talked about before, the best architectures, requirements and design emerge from self-organizing teams. So even though the real why delegate is to help the teams and individuals to grow, there is also a lot to be gained for the organization as we do that. Empowerment from leaders as well as peers. We recognize this picture now, the picture of the hierarchy, where we can see that it's the Scrum team's job to get the tasks done to produce the result, and it's each leader level is their responsibility. Their job is Care&Growth of their subordinates. We then also, in the last video clip, talked about that within the team, there is also care and growth between the team members. So this about growth, empowerment, is really a question both from the leaders as well as between peers. It's the same sort of mechanisms when we talk about Agile organizations. Between the peers is such that relationship between peers is so important and so so central to the Agile concept. So if you remember from before, when we talked about means, ability and accountability, the means is the tools, resources, authority, information, standard, the boss's time, the thingies that we need to do the job. The ability is the knowledge, the how and the why. And then when we have the means and the ability in place, is really important to hold accountable. And we then, first of all, set a standard to know what we are measuring against. And then when people are doing a good job, we make sure to recognize this, to say thank you. If they walk the extra mile, which in the Agile context might well be to know when it's good enough. So don't confuse the extra mile with doing a lot of extra work. Then it's a question of rewarding from different means. Could be sharing on a learning day, or it could be cake, it could be lots of things. On the other hand, when things are not up to standard, if it's a question of carelessness, it's something to censure, to warn, to give critical feedback. And when it is actually malevolent behavior or repeated carelessness, this is something that needs to be more clearly handled and disciplined. Right. So how do we do then to be able to hold accountable? Here is the 5 steps to empowerment to be able to do delegation in a good way. Number 1 is to identify the next step. And here, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's not a question of what do you as a leader want to get rid of, or what do you in the team want to get rid of. It's a question of what is a suitable next step for the person in question to grow. Then, of course, there's no problem if the 2 of them coincide. I mean, you want it to be something that should be done as well, obviously. Number 2 is to train the person in question to take that step, both the why and the how. Number 3 is to test the ability, to make sure that the person has understood both the why and the how. This could be done in different ways. It could be like an on-the-job thing, that you're doing something in parallel and you see that the other person have understood it. It could also be talking back to you, explaining to you how it will be done. But you have to make this sure before you, number 4, hand over the means. So handing over the means, and we know from the list there to the right what that includes: tools, resources, etc., authority. And then as the last step, the step number 5, we hold the person accountable. Holding the person accountable is so important. We actually do the first 4 steps in order to be able to hold the person accountable, because that is actually what makes the person to grow. So there is no use doing the first 4 steps if you don't want to do the 5th, because the 5th is the most important one. Okay, let's have a look at an example. So this we normally do as an exercise if we have training. So let's say a scenario here. You're the line manager of a software development team. One person in the team, we call him Andy, has indicated an interest in the Scrum Master role, and you actually think it's within his reach and good for your organization. You want it to be within his reach. We talked about the means and ability. Something being within his reach actually talks to the capability. So you want it to be within his capability. And it's also good for your organization. Then what you do is you apply the 5 steps to empowerment. So let's see an example here, what it could be in this example. Identifying the next step for Andy then, who wants to try to be a Scrum Master and you think it's a good idea. Okay, maybe it could be to let Andy be stand-in when the Scrum Master is away on paternal leave. That could be a suitable next step. Number 2, then train the person to take that step. Well, one thing to do could be to let him work next to the Scrum Master a couple of sprints before, so that they work closely together and Andy can try out stuff and spend time together with the Scrum Master to see how it's done. Number 3, test the ability, both the why and the how. For example, you could then ask Andy to run some stand-up meetings and a retrospective with the Scrum Master still around. Make sure he's confident with the sprint planning process and the team's velocity and commits. So it could be a mix here of running some exercises and talking about other things. And you'd of course discuss which should be which in that case. Then you hand over the means, and I was thinking, what would suitable means be as an example here? Well, I think the means here might be the calls to the team internal ceremonies. So that Andy is then the one calling for the stand-ups, the retrospectives, the sprint plannings, the demos, etc. But another means would also be the invite for the Scrum of Scrum meetings, where Andy would then be the representative from his Scrum team. And then you need to hold him accountable. So then Andy needs to be held accountable for the team's process and also responsible for the deliveries. So that would be an example of how to handle the 5 steps to empowerment. So I hope you found that interesting, and please check us out on the website. And until next time, bye.